Geno masquerading as the Visitor has finally been shattered. So as you know, throughout Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3 story, Geno disguised himself as a 7 member known as the Visitor to not only gain our trust, but also the Order's trust. And the Order was about to trust Geno while pretending to be the Visitor until Slone and the Singularity are starting to get suspicious of the Visitor. Because in the first half of Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3 story, Chapter 7 Season 3 runners, Slone and the Singularity are starting to see that something is off with the Visitor because he's acting pretty strange. Something talking about a perfect world and a perfect society, something that they know that's not what the 7 fight for. Because they know that the 7 fight for the 0 Point, the Omniverse, the island, including us, the Looper. So they're starting to get suspicious of the Visitor. And in the Formation story quest, Geno even brought up the Collider to Slone, the same one back in Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 2's Collision live event and the Fortnite Marvel Zero War comic series. So Geno's behavior while pretending to be the Visitor is continuing to be noticed in the Construction story quest, because after extracting some sprites for Geno to help him with his research on the sprites, he said that in his own words that it's been so long that he has been hands-on. He has become a vision holder, a pioneer amongst all realities. Because when he was young, he built his dreams with his own bare hands, and he can't wait to do it all over again. So not only that Geno's behavior while pretending to be a Visitor is starting to be noticed by Slone, the Singularity, including everyone around the Shadow Coast, even Hope is starting to get suspicious of the Visitor as well. Because throughout her vision quests, because Hope's visions are slowly coming back, she's starting to piece it together who could possibly be the traitor amongst the 7 back in Chapter 7 Season 2's Shadow Live event, being that Hope is getting closer to the truth about Geno being the Visitor. And after finding a missing audio log at a green shipping container at the stabilizer, we hear a conversation between Slone and Hope. And they talk about their opinions about the Visitor. And according to Slone, she says that the Visitor is brilliant, confident, but also arrogant. And he could create a normal conversation without analyzing her. And Hope felt the same way. Which means not only is Geno starting to now see that Slone and Hope are starting to piece it together what's going on, but that he's also analyzing them, seeing what they could do at the long run throughout the entire Chapter 7 Season 3 story. But this is where Geno's identity as a Visitor is starting to be discovered by Hope. Because in the second half of Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3 story, Chapter 7 Season 3 Secret of the Sprites, Hope created a vision mural at Shaken Sanctuary. And she tells us that it's a recreation of a nightmare she had, of seeing a dark silhouette of a shapeless man laughing, sounding like the Visitor, revealing to be no other than Geno himself. She even says that we can win this fight without Jones. So she wants us to do our own investigation of the sprite's connection to the 0 Point, finding out why Geno is so obsessed with the sprites in the first place throughout the Construction story quest. And after helping Hope to investigate more about the connection between the sprites and the 0 Point, she then wants us to hack into a terminal at the stabilizer to get Geno's research on the sprites. And this is when we find out about Geno's true plan with the sprites themselves. Because it turns out, according to Hope, the sprites are actually created by the 0 Point, meaning they were created with 0 Point energy. Finally revealing about Geno's true intentions for the sprites and why he was so obsessed with them, meaning that Geno wants to use the sprites to stabilize to 0 Point, which is a bad sign, but then Hope tells us that we can use the sprites to restore Jones to get back on his feet, which is also a good sign. Unfortunately, Geno cannot allow that to happen, because in the second story quest, Visitor Secrets, we had to find 3 hidden audio logs scattered upon the Shadow Coast. And after finding the first audio log in the outskirts of Chop Shop, Lifty Lodge, Bottlewood, and Calamari Canyon, we hear a conversation between Slone and Hope. And this is where we find out of what the heck is going on. Because we soon find out that Slone and Hope notice that something is off with Jones' medical tank, noticing that someone adjusted the chemicals, adjusted the toxicity to the danger zone, meaning that someone was trying to kill Jones. And after investigating the who last changed the chemicals by visiting Jones at his healing tank was no other than the visitor. And Slone says this to Hope that she didn't notice that what's going on with Jones about his medical tank, Jones would have been dead. Because according to Slone, she tells Hope back in the audio log, telling her to not trust anyone, especially the visitor, which makes Hope's trust of the visitor to now be more disconnected. Because she's starting to now see that something is now off with the visitor even more. And after finding the second audio log in the outskirts of Latte Landing and Wonky Land, this is where Geno's identity has finally been discovered by Slone, Hope, and the Order. Because Slone's theory was correct, noticing that something was off the visitor, knowing that it's Geno this entire time. And let's just say the Order was not happy that her father is alive. Now convincing herself that he should be dead, now knowing that the imagined her own sister died for nothing. Because as you remember back in Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 2's Collision live event, in the Fortnite Marvel Zero comic series, the Imagined sacrificed herself to finally put an end to Geno, including the Imagined Order, during the final battle against the Imagined Order at the Collider. Even the Imagined did die, but Geno survived, constantly now rebuilding himself throughout the Omniverse. And now the Order knows that her father is now alive. However, Slone and Hope brought it back to reality by now knowing they're now in a very dangerous situation, because now they helped him to create the stabilizer, waiting for the right moment to use it, because now they have two options. Either help Geno to succeed in his plan to rebuild the Zero Point and reform it using the power of the Sprite's Zero Point energy, or option 2, sabotage the stabilizer and stopping Geno, but risking all of reality to be destroyed by the Zero Point. So now they're in a very tense situation right now, because not only they have to make two choices, to either help Geno or risking all of reality to be destroyed by the unstable Zero Point. So yeah, let's just say it's not looking good. So after finding the third audio log in the outskirts of Heatwave Harbor, the Order gives us a summary rundown about Geno, saying that all he cares about is perfect order and a perfect control, and he will do whatever he can to get what he wants, such as provoking Foundation, hurting Jones, having our allies to now distrust each other. Because he wants to be the only answer that people can now search for. But the Order can now allow this to happen. She cannot allow her father to win, because she will give him everything she could to not only to finally avenge the Imagined, but finally put an end to Geno once and for all. But before she could possibly face her father, Geno just up and left. He's no longer at Shaken Sanctuary because he finds out that he's finally been discovered, but he just left, knowing that he will finally be confronted by everyone, and he's now somewhere on the island that we don't know, meaning that we don't know where he is now, which is pretty bad. However, back at Shaken Sanctuary, we do discover a mysterious hole in one of the research stations. And after going inside the hole, we then see what led us to a surveillance room created by Geno. Geno created a surveillance bunker underneath Shaken Sanctuary with surveillance cameras all over locations of the Shadow Coast. And let's say after when the Order discovered this, she was not happy, extremely not happy. Finding out that her father has been spying on all of us this entire time, which means this now explains how Geno found out about Hope's plan to use the Sprite's 0-point energy to restore Jones to get him back on his feet. He discovered what we were been planning, and he was about to be discovered pretty soon by Hope, Slone, and the Order, and also the Singularity. So he just left Shaken Sanctuary, having us to finally discover what he's been doing throughout the first half and the second half of Chapter 7 Season 3's story, creating a surveillance bunker, including setting up surveillance cameras that will be discovered pretty soon. So the Order wants us to hack into Geno's audio logs to find out about his conversation with the Dark Voyager. And after hacking into Geno's listening devices at Sinister Strip, we soon find out Geno's true plan with the Sprites, to not only to stabilize the 0-point, but to make sure the 7 don't get noticed about what's going on. He then orders the Dark Voyager to keep us distracted. He wants their attention split, which reveals why the Dark Voyager is now engaging us as a boss at the Shadow Coast, because Geno ordered him to keep us distracted. But not only that, but after interacting with the second audio log, we then hear Geno talking about the Order, telling us that he knew that the Order was about to discover his identity pretty soon, but he doesn't want to fight her, that he doesn't want to lose another daughter, mentioning the Imagine. Even telling her that she could be his lieutenant during this time of, well, stabilizing 0-point and helping him to achieve his perfect dream of a perfect Order. But if she still doesn't agree, that she will be a worthy adversary for him. And let's just say, after bringing this whole thing to the Order, she was still not very happy about what she just discovered. And let's just say, yeah, it's not looking good. So, yeah, the Order is not really happy that she's going to literally be Geno's lieutenant. So, yeah, it's not looking good. So, the Order then tells us that we're going to find out about Geno's plans pretty soon. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to now know about this, considering that Geno has been lying to us this whole time. And with Geno's identity now been discovered by the 7, including the new members such as the Guardian, they're now going to have to find a way to stop him. Because if they don't, then they had to go with the second option to let the 0-point destroy everything on the island, which is pretty bad, but they had to make a sacrifice in order to stop Geno. So, yeah, that's what's currently going on throughout the entire story of Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3, Runners and Secret of the Sprites, where Geno's identity finally been discovered by the 7, such as Slone, the Singularity, the Order, and Hope. They now have to find a way to stop him, and figure out another way to stabilize the 0-point, with, after sabotaging the stabilizer. And we will find out where Geno is, because we still don't know where he is, because, again, he left Shaken Sanctuary, and now we don't know where he is on the island. And with the Order not really happy that her father is still alive, and now convincing herself that her sister sacrificed herself for nothing, is now giving her a very emotional spiral right now. But at least Slone and Hope snapped her back to reality to focus on the bigger objective. So with that said, thank you all so much for watching this video. Thank you. Comment down below what your favorite things to do in Fortnite creativity by players, Fortnite Ballistic, Fortnite Reload, the arrival of Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 9 OG, Fortnite Save the World, and Fortnite Reload's newest maps. Comment down below what your favorite moments to do in Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3 Runners and Secret of the Sprites, Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 9 OG, Fortnite Save the World, and Fortnite Reload's newest map. Comment down below what Fortnite series you want to discuss and debunk. Subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss any videos from me. And with the live event about to become pretty soon to finally figure out a way to stop Geno, we now have to figure out a way to stop him. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!